Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Mm,
Morning.
right, it's good to have everyone here. So we are welcome to the Emergence Conference. The conference. All in anticipation. Today is the due day. Today is 18th December 2021, and we are all here to witness what Anna has in package for us. So I'm welcoming everyone down here. We have Yeah, we'll be waiting for others too. So as others join, they will gain access into the meeting room and we have them live. Alright, so without much ado, I'll just give it up to Temitope Sadepe to continue from where I stopped. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's really amazing having us here today. Um, thank you very much for those who have registered and who have joined us, especially for those who came in right on time. Thank you, Sarah, Felina. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, Tinta, for joining in. We trust that others will join us soon, and then we can have a full house. So we trust that will happen very soon. Timilaya is also here. Welcome. Thank you very much. So before we get into the conference, really, before we get into the main session, I'd like to give a brief about Teens Affairs Network, that the organization that put this conference together. So Teens Affairs Network is an online community, and basically our target audience are teenagers and young people, young adults. We realize how important the online space is for us as young people. That's where we physically live our life. As young ones, everything we breathe, we live, and we do revolves around the online space. And we are particular about. We realize how important that aspect of our life is, and how much of an influence the online space has on the values that we hold, how much of an influence the online space has on how our perspective to life. And so we decided that we can form an online community of young people who will define what it feels like to be young, what it feels like to be a teenager. Basically reaching out via posts, videos, articles, quotes, and we have our platforms on Facebook, on Facebook and on Instagram. And we've dropped the link on the WhatsApp group. I respecting you guys to join us, because it doesn't just end at the conference. We engage our platforms timely, and then we share nuggets that help us to, there's a lot of wave and move on the internet, in the online space, social media, and we're just trying to keep ourselves in check, keep ourselves in check, and being able to define what is right or wrong, and be a model of what is right. And we trust that as you join us, it wouldn't cost you anything. Just like and follow the pages on Facebook and on Instagram. As you follow our content, just that you'll be able to relate with some of the things that we engage on those places. And when programs like this are also put together, to get information about it first, you can register. And we post scholarship opportunities. So it's not just about things to do and things that to do, but basically we address every issue, every area of our lives as young people, trying to see how we can model teenagers who are totally amazing people. And since I Affairs Network has put together this conference, the first of its kind, since the inception of TAN in 2020. And we trust that by the end of the conference today, we trust that it will be a worthy time. It will be worth your investment, your time and data investment. And we trust that you'll be able to put some things in perspective and strengthen our resolve to do better. Thank you very much for joining us. It wouldn't make any sense if you're not here. Thank you for joining. If you have friends who registered and they're not in the meeting yet, please kindly buzz them so that they join us because we're starting on today. Thank you very much. And on that note, I would hand over to our speaker for today and our anchor. I believe it was into the major session of the conference. Thank you very much and have a wonderful time. Let's have Eniola Adirushakin and Oluwafemi Taiwo. Over to you guys. I don't think I can hear Eniola.
Yeah, I was waiting for the anchor to speak because she's actually, okay, she's unmuted now.
Right, you can have you. Eniola and Oluwafemi, let us have you.
Okay.
All right, so I was saying that Miss Eniola Adirushakin is our main speaker for today, and then she will be speaking to us in a few minutes about what the theme of the conference is, the emergence, as we all know. And I trust that we'll be blessed from our time of speaking to us in Jesus' name. Over to you, Ma.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I
Good
trust you're all
morning.
doing great.
Yeah,
So
thank
a
you.
bit of housekeeping here and there. If you are not speaking at the moment, please, I would like us to mute our mics, please, because of the background noises. Then also, if as I'll be going ahead with the teaching, because it's just a teaching basically. So if you have questions or there's something you want to ask, you can drop that in the chat session. And after the entire teaching, they'll be addressed. So basically, the theme for this conference, the Emergence, then we have a tagline understanding the 22nd century teenager. I know most of us might have been wondering, oh, what's this about? We are even still in the 21st century. So why are we even talking about the 22nd century? So and I know you're here this morning to at least know what that is about and also learn one or two things about what the conference has been tagged, the 22nd century teenager. And though we are talking about 22nd century teenager, we are not just teenagers here, right? Most of us here are young adults. Many people are just here even not as teenagers, but to actually learn one or two things. And it will be my pleasure to take us on this journey. So I'll be sharing my screen with us. I'll be sharing my screen with us now. Can we all see my screen?
Yes, Ma.
Yes,
Yeah,
you can see us.
okay.
Yes. Okay.
So we are talking about the emergence, that's the 22nd century teenager. And as I said earlier, we are even still in the 21st century. So we are wondering, why are we even talking about this now? The fact is that we believe that we are a people of vision, and we don't have to wait until a time comes before we begin to envision, okay, what am I going to do? We usually say this, that if you don't prepare, then if you fail to plan, you're actually planning to fail. So preparation is very important in life, and it should come before most of our deliberations, should come before most of the things we do. So basically, this is like a wake-up call to us, trying to like tell us what is expected of us, what God desires of us as teenagers, as young people, and what should we feed the people coming behind us? What should we feed them with? We already know that the 21st century, the one we are in now, everybody already has an idea of, oh, this is what is going on. This is how people of this century are. Some people call this generation the Gen Z generation, or they are the hyper ones here and there. But there are so many negativities that are attached to these particular times you are in. Different things are going on. And if you're a kind of person that actually reflects a lot, I'm sure there are some things happening and you sit sometimes and you wonder, why is this generation like this? Why are things, derailed to this level? Why are people doing these things this certain way? And it is different from what we used to know. We sit with some elderly people and they tell us, during our time, this was not how things were. So what has happened? What changed? What is in this generation, so to say, that has actually changed? What happened in the last 100 years that have actually, sort of determined the flow of things from this time? So basically, we are setting a pace. We are looking to the future, because basically the future starts now. We don't have to wait a century, like is about 100 years. So we don't have to wait till that time comes before we now decide, okay, what is expected of us? Okay, what are we supposed to do? So we are like casting the vision, casting God's mind, and telling ourselves, okay, this is what is expected of us. It doesn't have to be in that timeline like, oh, the 22nd century, but basically it's about the behavior, it's about the skills, it's about what is expected of us at this time. Let's bring what we think cannot happen now, what we think is still in the future. Why don't we bring it to this time? So basically, that is what the conference is about. And like I said, we're in the 21st century, moving towards the 22nd century. That's in about so many years from now, because the 22nd century won't start until I think 2100. So we still have so many years to go. But we definitely believe that the future we do not build today is still going to, whatever happens later on, is still going to be based on what the actions we take at this time. Because at that time, the people that are teenagers now, or the people that are very, very young now, like maybe in their preteens or very young, like 5, 6, at that time, they'll be the grandparents. So whatever it is that they have now is what they'll be able to give back to the people that would even, the people that would define what the 22nd century is. So there's a reason to, to build up positively. It's important to actually do what is right, because the effect is in the long term. This on my slide here is a guy, working. My arrow is trying to describe we're moving from one place to another, because basically all of life is a journey. Life is a journey. You cannot, decide to sleep and like, oh, let me just sleep and let everything be fixed and nothing is moving. It's not possible. It is not based on what you choose to do. It is a normal thing that will happen because we keep moving every day. So life is advancing. Life is a journey. In the journey of life, there are distractions. In the journey of life, you meet with people. In the journey of life, there are things to do. And basically at this time, it's funny how when you're born, people make jokes about that, oh, automatically when you're 1 or 2, you just have to start schooling. Like, who gave all of those standards? Like, is that how life is supposed to be? So basically, all of those things are just a part of life which you cannot shy out of, or you cannot decide to say, in fact, I'm not doing anything. I've been born. I just want to be there. You cannot wait and allow life pass you by. But basically, we are all in a journey. Life is a journey in phases, different things at different times, different people, different challenges, different ideals, and today we are even having different values, certain things that defined the older people are not the things that we hold on to as our own values today. So things are changing, and the journey, as you go further in the journey, as you see further, you have different experiences to share, and it just continues until it finally ends at death. So life is a journey, life continues. Okay, basically, there are changes that we've seen. People say that change is actually the only constant thing in life. You cannot compare this time to the times we were in even 30, 40, 50 years ago. So basically, change is constant. It keeps happening. And we're in the world of, technology, things are happening, and, things have changed basically. There are certain things we see today and we know that, oh, this thing has come to stay. Example is technology. We know it has come to stay. It can only keep improving. It can only get better, but I don't think we can come to a time whereby maybe we will not use phones anymore. So do you agree with me?
I do
Yeah,
agree.
so yes, yeah, we agree.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
things are changing. And for technology, as I said, I don't think a time will come whereby we have to, oh, I can't send any message anymore. We don't pray that we even go back, because basically it has become a part of our lives. Look at this kind of program we're having, everybody in different places, but we cannot come together because of that change that has happened. So, but really, I want to ask you, are there areas where you think that this change has actually robbed us? Are there things that we see and we're like, it wasn't like this because of what has happened. That's why this is happening. Femi, are you there?
I'm here. I don't quite get you.
Yeah. Do you want to share any? Like the things have happened and you're like, oh, this thing has actually robbed us of other things.
Yeah.
As good
For
as they may
example,
seem.
technology, like you said, it has
Yeah.
its good side and also has its bad side.
Okay.
Like now, we're all together in one place conversing at a time. But then
Yeah.
again, in some certain ways, it has actually robbed us of having to meet physically and see physically.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Yeah.
technology, as the way it keeps advancing, it just keeps spreading like wildfire. And the bad side is getting mostly even to young adults, and then they just misuse the opportunity of technology and use it in the bad
Yeah.
way.
Yes.
That's why there are fraudsters everywhere, every now and then, because
Very.
technology has.
Exactly. So that's the way it is. As things, even though things are changing, you know, everything is still moving to a point whereby you feel like, oh, there has to be a stop to this. There are certain things we see online, we see everywhere, and we're like, where is this world going into? The good things are becoming bad, so to say, because of how much we are exploiting all of those things. Okay, like the background picture on my slide, for instance, you have young people together, everybody's concentrated on their phones, and this sense of community sort of is gradually fading off. And everybody, even in a gathering, you go for a meeting and you just meet with people. Normally you're supposed to relate with them. Oh, how are you, this and that, but everybody on their phones and talking with other people in different places. So change, as constant as it may seem, has actually robbed us of other things in certain areas. So that is why there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance to how we, okay, probably make use of the resources at our disposal, balance to how we see freedom. Everybody now wants to be free, like, oh, just be happy, whatever makes you happy, just do that. They don't understand the fact that there has to be a balance to everything. So we are foreseeing a future whereby this 22nd century teenager, as as the teen is able to bring all of those things, bring all of these strengths together, and actually make something meaningful out of it without allowing the negativities attached to the change draw them back and actually help them to get their maximum potential. So basically, like I said, also in the 21st century, technological advancement, exposure to different things, new ideals, definitions, certain things that were defined in a particular way. Now things have changed. You want to fill a form and they'll tell you, okay, pick your gender. Then you say male, female, I don't want to disclose, blah, blah, blah. Even you have like 8, 9, 10, and you're like, what? I thought we were just male and female, all of those things. So different ideals, different definitions. So people, that's why sometimes maybe on some social media platforms, they tell you, they ask you, what do you want to be addressed as? Either he or she. So some people had it to their bio, like he/she, because you could actually appear as a female and you don't want to be called a she, but you actually want to be called a he, that kind of thing. So different ideals, different definitions. People are clamoring for freedom, emancipation. Oh, I want to be free from my parents as teenagers, for instance. Oh, these people are just stressing the life out of me. Can't I just be free? Can't I live my life? Blah, blah, blah. We see all of those things happening. Moral decadence. Our parents will tell us that the things that are happening now, in fact, they cannot even explain. Sometimes you don't know what's happening because of it. It depends on how exposed you are to certain things. When you hear some teenagers talk about their struggles, when you hear them talk about the things they've been through, when you hear them talk about the things they've done, you'll be amazed, like, really? So you mean you've actually gone this length? You mean you've done this much? In terms, talking in terms of moral decadence now, okay, like the current story online, sorry for bringing in this, but really, of the school children that actually, in quotes, they practically, I don't know, the kids is still maybe they are still trying to find out what happened. But basically, it was more like the guy was killed by his colleagues in school. And those children are just teenagers, 15, 14, maybe 16 maximum. So different things are happening. And I'm not trying to say that these things didn't happen in the past, but we can also agree with me that the rate at which different things are happening, the rate at which people are just, living a sort of carefree life, like I own myself and there is nothing anyone can do about it. And the funny thing is, they are not even ashamed to own up to all of those things. In the past, people could actually indulge in maybe bad behavior, different things, but they were hiding it. They would do it in a way that, oh, I don't want anybody to know about this. But with social media, you can hardly log on to any social media platform without scrolling. By the time you scroll like 3 slides and all of that, you see all sorts and you wonder, what's happening? Why are people going so far? What's really happening? So those are some of the things that, if you agree with me though, describe the century. You have the quest for societal acceptability. Some people will be willing to go naked because of the number of likes on Facebook, and that's the truth. People will be willing to do all sorts just because they want to feel among. These days, you have cybercrime, different social vices, and if there are things that describe this century, I know many will agree with me that these are the things. Femi, do you agree with me on this?
I totally agree with you.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we do. I personally do agree with you.
Okay. Do you have any other thing to say? Somebody speaking. Okay, I can't hear anything. All right. So basically, we're talking about the emergence. What does it mean to emerge? Now we already see, we've seen all of these things, like, okay, this is what is happening. Whether we choose to agree with it or not, it's happening around us. This is like the current reality. It might not be your own reality, but it is everywhere around you, because if you're a very if you're a reflective person, some things must have bothered you, like what exactly is happening. So basically, it's like a current reality. So now we are talking about the emergence because there has to be a change, because things actually have to be different, and it doesn't just happen. Some set of people have to, agree to it, like, okay, this is the change we are bringing. This is what we want to do differently. Now, because if you light up, if you start burning something, for instance, it starts from a very small fire. And before you know it, everywhere is caught up. But that's something that sometimes we don't want to believe, that if I start doing this thing, will people actually notice it? Will it make sense? And maybe everybody will start doing it that same way. But it's actually true. It is possible. It is very, very possible. So basically, the emergent has to do with a change, has to do with a new, a new kind of thinking. Now, in my slide, on my slide here, sorry, you can see I try to like look for the perfect way to describe what I'm trying to explain. You have an egg is laid and the chick comes out. So that's my own, that's how I picture imagine. Now it's about coming forth. It's about strength coming out of weakness. Imagine you just throwing that egg down. The egg is going to break and nothing is going to come out of it. But after a period of incubation, what happens? You have the chick. To emerge means to evolve. There's a change from what was to what is. It's a total transformation to something entirely new. And I also called it a birthing, to emerge. Many times this word is used maybe in more serious terms, basically, but to emerge, to come forth, to emerge, strength out of weakness, to evolve. It involves a total transformation. So we are calling forth and we are praying, we are imploring us, we are charging us up that, okay, these are current realities, we know that, but can we from this emerge into, can we have new set of people that will define how things are done at this point in time? Because even the things that we tag the bad things today, it was somebody that started it. You know how easily things go viral today? Like when you just do something and it's nice, then it's everywhere. Before you know it, you'll be wondering, when did this thing go viral? Like everybody has heard about it, everybody is doing it. So that's the way it is. It starts with somebody. It starts with a set of people. So it has to be like a personal decision, basically. So here at this conference, they're trying to implore us as teenagers, as young adults, to come forth, to allow something new begin from us, like a beginning of a new life, a beginning of a new thing. Let it start from us so that we'll be able to, we'll be able to make impact in the lives of other people. We'll be able to be influences around to those that are around us. All right, my next slide. Now, what qualifies you for an emergent? We've been talking about, okay, how do I emerge? How do I become better? How do I change? How do I evolve? These current realities are around me, but what can I do? What are the things that I need to put in place to actually make actually make this, this 22nd century 22nd century teenager that I imagine, that I think is what is what God is calling us to be. How do we get there, basically? So one, I have about 3 points on this: an awareness of the truth. Now, we are in a world today whereby there are different definitions to certain things. And for some people, the truth has become relative. Relative in the sense that, when somebody asks you a question that, okay, what is this? People hardly give yes or no answers. They just tell you, it's possible, but it depends. This, that. I don't know if you get my point. So it's more like the truth is now something that we play with, and we're like, oh, is it actually true? Well, it depends on where you are doing it or who you are doing it to, or it depends on your mind. It depends on what you are thinking at that very point in time. But really, I believe that there's just when something, there's no middle, there's no gray line. It's either black or white. So you are qualified for an emergence when you are aware of the truth. You are aware of the truth about certain things and the things that you even hold on to. Today, there are different definitions to success. Some people believe that if you are not, if you don't have this amount in your account, you're not successful. If you don't do all of this, you don't drink, you don't do this, you don't do that, oh, doesn't mean you're enjoying life. There are different standards that have been set for different things. And we see a breed of teenagers today, young adults, that are trying to fit into all of those models. And I wonder who has actually set the standard. Oh, I think I have to do this to feel among. I think if I don't attain this height, I'm not successful. I think if I don't, engage in all of these vices, does it mean I'm enjoying life? Why is my whole life just so dry? just so boring and all of that. But when you know the truth about certain things, that okay, the amount of money I have in my bank account doesn't define me, and it is not the definition of success. If you know that life is meant to be enjoyed based on your own personal terms and not based on someone else's definition, those kind of things set you apart, and it makes you, you think differently because you know the truth. And even if, we're in a world whereby peer pressures and all of that, even if people are doing things differently, even if it appears that, oh, you're alone, but because you know what the truth is, and you are not being, that you are not just, joking about it, or like, oh, is this actually true? It's something you are convinced about. It sort of makes your decisions firm. You know where you're going, you know what you want to do, you know what your targets are, and basically you just go for it. I've not lost my audience. Are we together? I just need somebody to, say
Yes, ma'am. We
hi.
are together. We are
Okay,
together.
Yes,
okay.
we're with
I
you.
hope I'm not rushing.
No, we are with
Yeah.
you.
Or not at all.
Okay. Now, the second thing that qualifies you for an emergence is living a life of purpose. Like, what is your why? The things you're doing, why are you doing them? Because if we don't define certain things, it's always easy for us to, navigate off the path and just do things because other people are doing it. We're in a world whereby when people, for instance, talking about success, oh, I want to succeed, I want to excel. So it doesn't matter what it will cost. It doesn't matter whose ox is God. I don't care if I step on people. I don't care if I have to cheat. I don't care if I have to do anything. All I'm concerned about is I must get this goal, and I'm getting it without anybody telling me anything. So that is another issue. But when you're living, you're kind of person that you're living a life of purpose, you understand the reason why you're doing it. You understand why this thing is important and why you can't afford to do it the way everyone else is doing it. At that very point in time, the way you do it, how you do it, the way you treat people while doing it are the things that actually matter to you, because you know that the end goal really is not about holding on to something and yes, I made it. But it's about probably the lives you touched on your way up the ladder, for instance, is about the impact you've been able to make. It's about how that in itself fits into a larger purpose, or the larger picture, of your life. So understanding your why is one way to emerge and to do things differently, and to actually have this, the right perspective to all that you do. Because when purpose is not identified, definitely it won't be done the right way. Definitely there will be areas whereby you feel, oh, I can just do anything I like who cares? All I want is to achieve that goal. We have people everywhere who are not concerned about family, not concerned about relationships around them, not concerned about anything, because they've been conditioned to understand that, see, you either get it or you get it. There's nothing you can, there's nothing you can do to exchange for that. We have people today who, because maybe they failed at something, I believe that in one way or the other, everyone has failed at one thing at the very point in time. We have people who, because they failed at something, they decide to commit suicide. They decide to take their lives. You see suicide rates among teenagers just because they feel, oh, I failed totally. But for one who understands purpose, for one who understands the will of God in their lives, these kind of things will just, there could be, definitely we are humans. They're very, you feel bad and all of that. But because you know that it's not about me really, there's a purpose to be fulfilled. And many times I just say that whatever happens, it just makes the story more interesting. Doesn't matter how bad it is, it just makes the story more interesting. So living a life of purpose is one very important thing that qualifies you for an emergence, and you understanding the reason why you're doing something. And I wrote there the next point saying that every day should actually count for something. Is it in the way you treat people? Is it in the way you even live your personal life? Is it in the way you spend your time? Is it in the way you respond to people? Every day, everything should count for something important. Okay, I move to my next point. Okay, it's about daring to be different. You dare to be different. Now, it is a difference that actually distinguishes you. When you want to be like every other person, then the difference there won't be any difference really. So difference is one thing that actually distinguishes you. And because many times today we have people who are scared of being themselves, like, oh, people will not say, oh, why am I like this? Let me just, if you can't beat them, you do what we say, you join them. Let me just be like them. If I can't, do things differently, we feel doing things differently as something that, okay, something that is wrong, or because we are different, we feel that definitely those people doing the same thing are the ones getting it right. Basically, that an opinion is popular does not mean that it is right. That something is viral in today's terms does not mean that it is correct. So daring to be different is one thing that is actually important. Why don't you do it your own way and see what is going to happen? Because when you are comfortable with everything and anything, nothing sets you apart from the rest. You are comfortable with, oh, that's the way we just treat people. That's the way they are. Oh, that's the way we talk. Oh, those are the slangs. So it doesn't matter. You just say it. You just do it. You just do it the way they are doing it. And you don't just feel you don't feel the need to actually do things differently. So it's about daring to be different, because if you're not different, if you are comfortable, okay, like the picture in my slide where I was defining what it means to emerge. If the chick choose to remain like, oh, I don't want to become a chick, I remain there as an egg, you know, it won't come out. So certain things must have been as a result. Okay, we know about incubation. The temperature must have been so high, and the chick wants to come out, evolve to emerge. So it's about daring to be different, because being too comfortable with everything and anything around you doesn't actually set you apart. Okay, now as a 21st century teenager, as a 21st century young adult, as we are, why should I even desire to emerge? Why should I desire an emergence? One thing I would like to say is that you are a pace setter. No matter where you are, no matter where you find yourself, whatever it is you're doing, you can actually set the pace. You can bring about the new definitions. These days, I see that people who are even doing the wrong things are not usually, they don't feel any remorse about telling people what they are doing. They even they are proud about it. They pride in what they are doing. But people that are actually doing things the right way are the ones that now shy away from it. Oh, I don't want them to know that this is who I am. Oh, I don't want them to know that I don't do this with them. I just want to hide, and everybody just, tags along. And before you know it, we are selling a wrong thing to the oncoming generation, and everybody just feels like, oh, that's the way it is, without knowing that there are people that are actually getting it right, without knowing that there are people that are doing things well, but because it is not loud, so we feel that, oh, everybody is the same. I want you to understand that you're a pace setter. You can set the pace. You can determine the course of things from where you are. It might not be noticeable in 2, 3 years, but now we are talking about a century here. So whatever starts with you, definitely those ideals, those definitions, those values will rub off on your children. Whatever rubs off on your children, definitely on your children's children, then it's like we're more like securing the 22nd century, so that most of the things that we're even experiencing now, by then will become a thing of the past, or even if they are still there, if God tarries, really, it will be very minimal because of just your own decision to actually get things right. Somebody said something that for you to know if you were actually a good parent, you don't actually check your child, you check your grandchildren, because your child, one way or the other, must have just struggled and all of that. But when you see your grandchildren and you see the kind of values they inculcate, you see the things they do, that's successful parenting, because you've been able to pass on something to a generation that has been able to also transfer it to another, and you can see it. So we are talking basically in the long term now, believing that the things we do now go a long way in determining what happens in the future. And many times for us individuals, everybody just lives like, oh, it's my life. I can decide to do whatever it is I want with it. I'm here to tell you this morning that a generation is counting on you. If you actually feel the burden of people on your shoulders, because sometimes there are certain things that I want to do, for instance, but I don't do them, not because they are bad, but because you feel like the person coming behind or other people that see and do not get to see me, for instance, for me to, explain things to them, they might not understand why I did this thing. So those things might not be wrong in themselves, but because you know that there are people you cannot afford to mislead, so you just decide to, okay, I believe maybe some of us here are Christians, or if we all are, really, Apostle Paul was saying that some things are experienced, not everything is beneficial. There's some things that you don't do, not because they are wrong in themselves, but because a generation is counting on you. If everybody lives with an awareness that there are people looking up to me, because some of us feel that, oh, those people, they are the ones, or they are the mentors, they are the ones that are there already. How did they get there? It was just through basically exemplary living. That was how they were able to, people could look up to them and say, okay, this person is my mentor. I want to follow in this person's tracks. If we all live with a sense of purpose, with a sense of responsibility that, yes, there's a burden on my shoulders and it is to get it right for the generation coming, everything that pertains to us, career-wise, morally, we tend to shut off some things. We see people doing well for themselves academically, but in other areas of their lives, you wonder, why is this person so rude? Or why is this person so, nonchalant? Why is this person this, that? Really, there has to be a balance. There has to be a point whereby definitely no one is perfect, really. But it shouldn't be far apart, like you're just high up there in this regard. And for this, you are just nowhere to be found. But when we understand that people are looking up to us. You don't have to have people that say, you are my mentor before you live right. You don't have to have people that, you don't even have to, you can be the last born. You don't have to be the first child before you be responsible, because people automatically think as a first child, yes, I just have to be serious because my younger ones are looking up to me and I can't afford to let them down. So that's not basically what it's about, but understanding that a generation is counting on you, understanding that the things you do, the things you do not do, actually go a long way in determining, how things, will unfold in the future. And for those who are probably there already, I want to say this morning that you are not alone. Many times people must have started on the right track. Oh, really? I just want to be different, this and that. But when they look around and all they see is the negativity around and all of that, they just feel, I don't think I can do this anymore. I think I'm alone. The fact is, you are not alone. You are not alone. There's a story in the Bible about the prophet. Is it Elijah now? Who was running and he felt, oh, they've killed all of the prophets. I guess I'm alone and all of that. And God was trying to make him understand that, see, guy, you are not alone. I've kept about 7,000. So many times people feel we cannot just get it right. In fact, everything is bad. Everything is wrong. You can't really make sense anymore. But the fact is that you can be different. You are not alone. There are people behind you. There are people that you might not even know of, but there are people. Sometimes you meet with people and you just connect with them so much and you're like, wow, so there's still somebody that actually thinks this way. So there's still somebody that actually believes in all of these things. That's the way life is. The fact that they are not everywhere around you doesn't mean that such people do not exist. So you're not alone. Whatever it is you're doing and you're doing right, keep at it. Another thing I'll say is that it is God's desire that you emerge. God is not one that is, what's the word now? That he wants you to just remain at that point and do things because you don't have to be with, follow the status quo, like, oh, this is how these things are done, and we just have to do it that way. I don't want to get talking about Nigeria now, but really, many times people do things wrong. They do the wrong things because it has become the norm, like, oh, that's just how we do it. There's nothing we can do about it. When they know that that is not how it should be. But in that place, if that kind of person can actually say, no, this is not how it should be. It should be the right way. Another person will come and say, oh, this is how this person does it, so I should do it that way. So when we begin to see our lives as things that will bring about not just a temporary impact, but an impact that transcends generation, an impact that transcends century, every aspect of our lives we'll hold it very important. We'll be concerned about how we manage our time. We'll be concerned about the things that we do. We'll be concerned about how, what success means to us and what it means to achieve those things. We'll be concerned about how we treat people. We'll be concerned about family. We'll be concerned about different things because we will try as much as possible to create a balance. Now, another reason why I should desire an emergence because God is seeking an entirely new breed of teenagers who will not conform to worldly standards. It is God's desire that we are different. It is God's desire that we do not just, that we are not just part of the pack and, okay, everybody's going this way. Let's just do things this way. If it is right, fine. But if it's something that is not right, definitely there has to be a better way to do it. And that is the path that we should choose. Okay? Now, in this 22nd century, maybe some of us will not even be alive anymore. Or some of us here will still be alive, who knows? But really, in the 22nd century, what exactly do we want to see? What do we desire? Like when I started, I was saying that there are some things that have actually come to stay, like technology. And Femi agreed with me. Technology is something that, except something happens and I don't know, it's something that will remain and will keep, getting better, even though things are happening now and it's beginning to, gear towards the negative side. Technological advancement will remain. But really, even as it remains, can we at least have a morally upright generation? Can we have a set of people who believe in certain values and they hold on to it no matter what? Can we have a sane society where people are successful, but at the same time, it doesn't take away their sense of humanity? Can we have a generation that actually, even with the advancement and everything going on around, everyone is concerned about the welfare of the other person? Everyone is concerned about, there's this community, like our parents, maybe we must have heard stories about, our parents telling us about how it was when they grew up. Everyone had this sense of community, and it was like, oh, this person's child is also my child. I can correct this, I can do that, because it was as if they were trying to build up something. They understood that if this person's child is not properly trained, it could actually affect my own child, because these days everybody's nonchalant. Oh, that's the person's problem. They should deal with it. That person's problem will meet with your own problem. Oh, sorry, not your problem. That person's problem that you're not nonchalant about will meet with your own child in class. And your own good child will connect to the person's problem. And before you know it, the child gets home and you're like, but I didn't teach you all of this. Where did you get it from? Now, the menace that the parent was unable to address, one way or the other, you have to make your child behave right. So I think those people of the older generation, they actually understood what community meant. They understood what it meant to, come together and build a complete society whereby it is not just about me, but about everybody doing things the right way. And that is the essence of this conference, to make us understand that even if we've gone so far, like technology-wise, we can still, there are some certain things that we should not lose. I was asking Femi the other time about what are the things that she thinks have changed and what are the ways in which the advancements have actually robbed us of certain things. And she was right about what she said. So it's about building a community of people who understand what family means, who understand that the definition of success is not about getting to a certain point, but is about personal fulfillment, it's about fulfilling purpose and all of that. Even as we have pace setters with global impact, today we have teenagers who are doing great, and you see somebody, oh, I graduated at 18, had my MSc at 19, I'm working with a corporate firm and all of that. Very good. But at the same time, when you come close to most of these people, you're like, what? This person is just, I don't know what kind of person this person is, really. And that shows that something is missing. That shows that there's a gap that needs to be covered for. So how do we get to do that? That is the essence of this conference, bringing us to understand that while all of these things are there, we should determine to emerge as a new breed of those who are able to, balance both sides of advancement and still retain some of the very important values that are actually important to us as humans. As we have pace setters with global impact, we look forward to a selfless society. We look forward to people who love each other, and it's not just about, the number of likes on a post for people who are genuinely concerned about the needs of those around them, even as we have people who are passionate about growth and success, we want a breed of teenagers who are passionate for God and who are willing to, advance the cause of the gospel and, do things the right way. So basically, this is the vision that the Teens That First Network through this conference is casting, that we crave for a society where there's a balance, where people understand each other, where we relate with each other properly, where we care about the needs of those around us, where we can decide to be different, where I can walk up to you and just be myself, because I don't have to conform to what you're doing. So basically, that is what we're trying to put across to us in this conference. Thank you for listening.